Welcome to Land a House. I'm Seth. I'm working with Project Solar, a company that has been installing affordable solar panels for a while now. They've also gotten into power stations. If you missed the first two videos, I did a full overview of the power station, and then I install this transfer switch so I can use the power station off-grid in my workshop. And now we're going to talk about the QCell 400-watt solar panel. So if you're interested in seeing this panel and installing it, seeing how well it performs, then continue watching. So this is the Project Solar QCell 400-watt solar panel. My goal here is to show you the panel, take a look at its specs. We will get a voltage reading here in the sun, and then also go out behind my building and get this mounted. I want to bring power from this panel into my studio space here and feed it to the power station from Project Solar and see how well it charges that unit. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the 400-watt QCell solar panel. The cell technology is 132 half-cell mono PERC. Nominal power is 385 to 410 watts. The wind and snow load is 4,000 to 5,400 PA. Efficiency is 20.9%. Temperature coefficient 0.34. The temperature tolerance is negative 40 degrees up to 185 degrees. 74 inches tall, 41 inches wide, and 1.26 inches thick. The weight is 48.5 pounds. Taking a look at the front of the panel here, you can see it's a nice uniform design with the 132 cells in there. Now I've had some bugs get on the panel already. I'll have to get those off of there before we start making real power. So it is an aluminum frame, and the panels in here have a transparent backing to them, which is supposed to allow for a little bit more power production, which is fun to see. As far as the build quality goes, it seems like it is top quality and definitely going to last for the 20 to 25 years as expected. Turning the panel to the back, we can see the mounting options are 4 holes on the back here. It also has ground locations here and also on this side over here. You can see that the back of the panel is kind of a transparent color, so you can almost see through it. The spec sheet over here is a sticker. Let me see if I can zoom in here, and I'll give you this information real quick. This is the QPeak Duo Black MLG10, and it's the 400 watt. So hopefully you can read the information, but the nominal power is 400 watts. The short circuit current is 11.07. The open circuit voltage, 45.55 volts. The current maximum power is 10.5 amps. The voltage maximum is 38.09. And the maximum system voltage is 1,000 volts. Weighs 48.5 pounds, and it is 74 inches tall by 41 inches wide and 1.2 inches thick. Now, something that I've not seen before is the way they have the separate bus bars for the positive and negative cables. They are separated, one side on one side on the other. I don't know if there's any benefit to that, except as you're doing a string of these, it will be able to extend a little further by not having that in the center. As far as cable length goes, this is, what is that, 5 foot, I would say? So that's definitely going to give you the space you need to wire this up. It's a nice sunny day out today. Let's put this panel in the sun and get a voltage reading real quick. I've got my multimeter here. I'm going to set this to volts and make sure we're on DC, and then I can test this out here. There's a 44.18. Considering there's a slight cloud cover today, the 44.18 is very nice. 45.5 was our open circuit voltage. Now you can buy fancy mounts to put your solar in, but I'm going to be using 4x4s, 2x4s, and a product called Unistrut in order to mount this panel. So I'm going to have one 4x4 a little lower and one a little bit higher, and then I'll cut it off at the angle I need, and then I can use those 2x4s as cross members, and the Unistrut will go in this angle here. So anyway, I'm going to dig a 2-foot hole to place one of the 4x4s, and then I will place another hole right behind it. I've got the first hole dug here to put my 4x4 in. Now if I bring you in this direction behind my house, you can see my sun. It's gonna rain soon. The sun is gonna pop up over this tree here and have this much sky to hit my panel. And so I'm gonna angle it in this direction to get the majority of the day's sun. So let's go ahead and push this in here. Now I'll be able to trim this down later if need be. I have the 2 posts set in the ground. If I were to mount the panel right here, it would probably be okay, but it's a little bit too steep. So I'm actually going to cut my back 4x4 down to about this level right here, and that will provide a better angle for the full year. This one up here would be great for winter time, but this down here would be ideal for more of the year. So what you can do to find the best angle is to take a soft drink can and place it on this right here, and wherever the shadow at 12 o'clock noon disappears, then that's where you would want to have this. But of course, throughout the year, the sun is going to change positions, and that's going to be altered. So I like to pick a time that's good for the spring and fall, and that way it will work out decent enough for summer and winter. So, all right, let's cut this down to, I'm thinking about right here ought to do it. So cut about 1 foot off of this. I want a 2x4 to go in this direction on this 4x4, and that needs to be cut at 42 inches, which will stick out about right there. So let's cut a 2x4 to 42 inch. I'm going to mount this 2x4 right here on the front of this post. So I want to first find out where the midpoint is, which is 21 inches. Now to actually mount the solar panel, I have got this unistrut, which is a metal channel. Comes in 10-foot sections, so I'm going to cut it in half at 5 foot here. And that will give me enough space to mount these panels. So the distance between my top 2x4s is 50 inches, which is within our 6 feet. And then 42 inches is where the panel actually mounts. So anyway, 5-foot piece is more than enough. I've got some screws and washers and this unistrut. I'm going to put one of them on the ground and then use the other one up here to mount. And so what I'm going to do is, I think, go up about 3 holes here on the bottom. I'll have, looks like 4 up there on the top. Now before I can put the other unistrut on, I need to measure my solar panel to make sure I have my distance from this side to this side correct. So let's step over here to the panel and get where the mounting holes are going to be. I'm going to find center of this hole to center of this one, and it is standard at 39 inch. So if I take the middle of the unistrut here and move over to 39 inch, I can find where I want to put the middle of the other unistrut. Now it's time to actually mount the panel. I've got it here close to the rack. I'm going to spin it around into the sun, and I'm going to use some clamps to hold it in place while I put some nuts and bolts in. I'll have to work decently quick here because these solar panels are known to get hot in the sun pretty quick. Now these clamps could still give way, so I'm going to hold it here. I'll show you the mounting process once I get one of these installed. All right, I'm simply taking a bolt, placing it into the hole of the panel. Scoot this over a little bit. There we go. That falls through. Put a washer on here, and then use a nut. These are nylon locking nuts, so it will hold things in place. Do that on all 4 sides, and we're good to go. Just going to use a wrench and a socket set to get this tightened down. And that's the basic mount of the QCell 400w panel. Now I'm going to be doing a ground on this later, but that's beyond the scope of this video. This is basically just trying to get the solar installed so we can go and power the power station inside of the shop. Now I may come back later and add a few more screws to make sure that the 2x4 is securely attached into the 4x4. But this method right here should work just fine using this unistrut. If you live in a high wind area, feel free to put more 4x4s in the ground for extra support, but for this right here, it's going to be sufficient. Now that I have the solar panel mounted behind my workshop, it's time to run the wire. I've got 10 gauge solar wire that already has the MC4 connectors attached to it, and I'm going to be using this 1/2 inch conduit to put that wire into. And that will run from the base of my panel mount here all the way to the shop and go up under so we can attach the solar panel to the power station. Now because my solar wire already has the MC4 connectors on them, I will have to remove one side in order to get that through the 1/2 inch conduit. This is the negative lead coming off of the solar panel, and it has the female side. So I also need to remove the female side of my solar wire that's going to run to the shop. And so over here I need to remove the male side on the positive lead, so that will fit through my 1/2 inch conduit. Alright, so here's my positive and negative wire. So here on the negative I need to remove the MC4 connector that is the female plug. Sometimes these plugs can be on here pretty tough. See what we can do. Okay, good. That one slides off reasonably easy, which is very good for us. All right, so this end right here will go through that conduit, and then I'll have to take off the opposite end over here for the positive. I'm going to take the black and red cable now that I have removed that MC4 connector from, and I'm going to feed this through the 1/2 inch conduit. Now before I dig the trench and bury my conduit with wire, I want to drill a hole here in the shop floor so I can stick that wire and conduit up through here. So I just got my 7/8 drill bit, and I'm going to step away from the corner over here just a little bit and then just drill a hole in here. There we go. That conduit should fit in that hole perfectly. I'm going to dig down a few inches here to bury this conduit, and that will get this out of sight and not be a tripping hazard. I've got a little trench dug here. I'm going to set my conduit into that and see where I want to end this right here. That should be fine. And now I'll move down to this side and see how much more conduit I need to cut. Okay, so I need this right here to go up under the building. So I got that matched up there. I've got the wire through this last piece of conduit. I'm just using a little bit of cement to connect those pieces of conduit here. Just press in and twist. I now have the positive and negative wires sticking up from my floor here. And I've got this little piece of conduit that's going to go over this. So I'm just going to pull these up to as far as they'll reach here. Looks like about right there. Put them in this last piece of conduit, and hopefully my hole size will allow this piece to slip down into. It does. Good. All right. So that right there, I'll put some caulking in there and around it to keep any bugs out. And that right there will be where our wires come up for feeding into the power station. Now it's time to get these MC4s back on the wires. I'm excited to be able to use the solar panel outside with the Project Solar power station. Should be nice to be able to power my studio or my shop space here. So I'm putting the female adapter back on this black wire. See if I can get it pressed in here all the way. Now I may decide to come back later and put a breaker box in here so I can turn off this solar, but for now let's go ahead and plug up the cable that came with the Project Solar power station, and that will allow me to connect this up to charge the unit through the solar. So I got this here. Let's go ahead and plug up the solar panel outside, and we'll plug this up and see how well it does. We've got the negative wire right here. Go ahead and get that connected, and then reach down here and bring the positive over. We're just about at full sun here, directly over top of the panel, and so that should provide the best results for seeing how well this is going to charge. Now I'll probably come back later and put a little wire staple around these cables to keep them in place, and I'll also put some caulking in the end of my conduit there. Okay, moment of truth. Turn this unit back here against the wall and take the solar panel input here, plug this up, display pops on right away. Okay, there's 295 watts coming in. Very nice. 296. Let's see if that goes up here. I'll give it just a moment and see what it gets up to. As you can see, the panel is now facing directly into the sun, and I've noticed that a bird has found its way onto the panel up there at the top. So let me get the squeegee real quick and do a cleaning on this panel and see if it will increase that power over 300 watts. Well, looks like about 11 more watts was reached by cleaning that panel off, so that's pretty good. It's going to take 1.5 hours at that rate to be able to charge this back up. So obviously, unless I'm using this on a really cloudy day, it will have this power station fully charged very quickly, and I'll be able to use it here in the shop to run my system off the grid. The incoming watts from this panel has now crept up to 320 watts. And it's been holding there pretty steady now for about 10 or 15 minutes. Well, as you can see, it is charging up nice and quick, now at 87%, and this thing will be fully charged here within 0.7 hours. Thank you so much for watching this review on the Project Solar QCell 400 watt solar panel. I've used several panels in the past, and I have to say this one is made top quality, so definitely a good panel. I will have a link to this in the description down below, as well as the Project Solar power station and also the Project Solar transfer switch, and hopefully you'll be able to power your home or your shop just like I'm doing here. I'm Seth with Land to House, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.